Sometimes we may go through certain things in life, and we become so much, confused, and being relative to the fact that it is something that you've never experienced it in your life. You had no idea about it, and you could not even think of something like that can ever happen to you. And then when it happens, you become so confused, and at times, if you're not careful, you may lose it. Yeah, you may lose it. I remember when my wife gave birth to our third born. Okay, that is our fourth born, that is. No, yeah, that is our fourth born, that is. My son was actually born. He was very tiny. He was very tiny. He was born, and I remember that time when he was being born, I was at work. And then I came in the evening and to the hospital, and I saw my wife had already given birth to that young man. But he looked looking at our sons from the previous sons that we had. He looked a little bit different, because he looked a little bit more thinner and a little bit weaker. But when we asked the doctors, then they told us that is how he is, and that is how his body is, and he will catch up when the moment he begins to, breastfeeding and all that stuff. He will catch up, and things will be okay. So we followed doctor's prescription. We ensured that the young man had almost everything that they require. So as a young man, there was a lot of things that he was supposed to take, and we worked very hard, even though of course, some of the funds that you may require, you may not actually be able to have them as at that time. But we actually worked hard, and we say the Lord was very, very faithful in providing those things for us. And the Lord, every time, sometimes we will work, towards getting this ABCD. At times we feel like it's almost not working, but at the end of it all, you find that things have worked out, and the Lord has actually provided for you these things. So it came a point whereby I was supposed to come to Nairobi to actually work, because I had gotten a job in Nairobi. So I was supposed to come and report and begin my work here. And my son was still very young. That young boy was still very young. He was about 6 months. Still very young, but though he was able to crawl and hold things and walk while holding things, and he was able to know who is a member of the family and who is not a member of the family. So that is how it was. And I remember traveling to Nairobi, and I left my family in Kitale, and in that Kitale, my wife was not working, so they were depending on this small monies that I get. I be sending it to them as I'm preparing a way on how they can come and join me to Nairobi. So I remember I used to struggle so much, and when I will go, because in Kitale we were paying a house rent. There was a house we were paying, so this was just a matter of relocating from Kitale to Nairobi. So in Nairobi, for me to come here, I had to look for a house first, and I had to ensure that things were really okay, in terms of checking the salaries that I'm getting before I make that decision of my children moving, leaving school there, come to join schooling here in Nairobi. So that is what I was actually working. So something told me, because you're still paying your rent in Kitale, you do not need to get a house that is so expensive here. So you need to look for a house that is less expensive, while you support your family in Kitale, through paying rent and buying them food and all that. So I came and I got these small houses in Nairobi here. I got these are iron sheets houses. They are houses that are built with iron sheets. Both the walls are iron sheets, the roof is iron sheets, the walls are iron sheets, and then they will only cement the floor. The floor and all that stuff. Those were terrible houses, But the neighborhood was good. The neighborhood was so secure. There was a place that water was always available. I know there are other areas whereby water is even hard to come by. But this is an area where water was very much available. So in terms of washing your clothes, in terms of taking a bath and all that, it was not a problem because of availability of water. But the house I got was going for about 3,500 shillings. That is the house I first rented in Nairobi, and that within that house, when it is sunny, in the day you'll think like you're in an oven, yeah, because the entire iron sheets will be very hot, and you can imagine if you are inside there and you are cooking inside. So that is a house that during daytime you could not actually sleep. During daytime in that house, you could only sleep at night, and even at night, it is extremely cold to an extent that you need to have some heavy blankets. And for those who do not know, Nairobi is very cold. At times it can get very extremely cold, but it's not as cold as those other areas I hear of in the western part of the world, where that it is cold until it snows. But in Nairobi, at times it can be very, very cold, very, very cold, and at times even when the sunshine is so hot, it is still very cold. Okay, still very cold. So that is how I came to Nairobi, and I bought those things. I got a house there. So I remember getting myself a small mattress, which I was just putting down on the floor, and I would sleep on the floor. And I had a small cooker there, which was a gasoline cook, which I was given by the company, and a few pans and cups and plates. So that is how I came, and I started life in Nairobi. I started working. So as I was looking for how this company will be paying, so the monies I was getting, I will send almost everything to my wife back in Kitale, so that she can be able to support the kids in school, and also pay for house rent there, and also ensure that she takes care of our smaller baby who had just been born. So as I was working there, and things came out at least very nicely, and I remember organizing myself, and then that was the time I told my wife, now this is the time for us to come to Nairobi, so you can just move to Nairobi now. So I remember going to Kitale, I picked them up, and then we traveled to Nairobi. So all of us, we came and entered that iron sheet house. That is something that at times, because you may not actually prepare until you prepare. I think you get me, yeah? You may not actually prepare until you prepare. So I said, as long as I have my family here, then the rest of the things I'll plan about them later, but let them just be here with me first. So I went and picked them, and I brought them to Nairobi, and we entered that iron sheet house, and we were there. So we stayed there, as I was planning also to look for another house, somehow like bigger, and I was also planning to look for a school where these kids can automatically go to school. So that was the first thing I did, ensuring that those kids, when they come, they join school immediately, because I didn't want them to overstay before joining the school. So I had already identified a school. So when they came, I took them there immediately, and they were accepted, they were admitted, and they were taken in. And that was a plus. So the only thing that was remaining now was for us to look for a house, so that we can move, just a house next to, around the school area, whereby they cannot just walk for a long distance to go to school. Because at times Nairobi can be very tricky, especially if you have children who are going to school somehow far away from where you're staying, because anything can happen. Yeah? Things happen, and anything can happen. So you need to ensure your children are just around you, so that in case of anything, they can simply just run to the at home. So in the course of looking for that, at one time, my wife was showering this young boy, my small boy. So while he was showering this small boy, I took a look, because this is something that I had never actually taken some time, to to look. Sometimes you do examine your children properly, especially when they are young. You need to examine so that you may identify some things. So I ended up realizing that there was something that was swollen just below the waist of my son. Something that had just swollen, and when you touch that, it's very painful. He cries a lot. And I looked and I told my wife, okay, I am noticing some swelling here. This is not normal. This is not normal. This one needs to be checked. So we didn't know. We thought that was the way this child was and all that stuff, because relative to what that doctor in Kitale told us. So I took my son to the hospital. So when I took her to one of the hospitals, there was this Kalasinga temple around a place called Waruku. So I took my son there, and this doctor examined. It was an Asian doctor. By the way, they are very good doctors, Asians, and they are very honest. So he looked at my son and he said, this is something called hernia. I had not actually known of what hernia is. It has never actually crossed my mind that such a vocabulary does exist. But I tell you, my brother, my sister, if you're a parent, be ready to face anything. Be prepared to face anything, because you see a lot of things. You can go through a lot of things as a parent. And that's why sometimes when my dad, at one time, I will tell him that I'm ready to marry now, I want to marry. At times he will look at you and he will tell you, young man, don't be deceived by your body structure. Don't be deceived by how tall you think you are. Okay? He will tell you, from the look of things, you still are not ready for marriage. Just concentrate with your studies and all that. At times we used to think that our parents are actually, not understanding us. But when I became a parent, that is when I ended up realizing for sure. There are times we may actually not be able to comprehend what our parents are really comprehending in life, because as parents, they've gone through a lot. So this is what I saw, and the doctor told us that this is an emergency. The young boy needs to go for surgery. So you need to take this young man to Kenyatta National Hospital for him to be booked for surgery. So he wrote a letter for us and stamped, and then he indicated there urgently. So I remember rushing this kid, my son, to the hospital in Kenyatta National Hospital. Now going there, we went there, we were booked, we paid money for cards, for booking. And then when we want to see the doctor, we are told the doctor is not there. The doctor is not there. Now, every now and then we go there, we are told the doctors are not there. The doctors are not there. So it was almost now like it's getting 3 months. And here the Asian doctor told us this thing, it's very, very, urgent. You need to make sure you treat this thing. Otherwise, it will affect this young man for the rest of his life. So we try to go to that hospital, those doctors. And every now you go there, you have to rebook. You rebook another card. You pay for another card. And we were like, for how long are we going to do this? And this young man, he's actually very delicate. So luckily enough, one time we went to Kenyatta and we found a doctor there called, was he called what? Suleiman. Hey, Dr. Suleiman, thank you very much. Thank you very much. God bless you for what you did. We go meet Dr. Suleiman. And Dr. Suleiman, he is actually a specialist for young children. And he comes there and he looks and he says, look here, what I can tell you is that for how long have you been coming to Kenyatta? We told him we've been coming here for the last 6 months. We keep on being told to come, when they actually know the doctors are not there to handle this issue. And this Dr. Suleiman tells us, look here, I know it will take long if you keep on coming to Kenyatta. It will take long. So he tells us that if you have NHIF, I can book you to one of the hospitals where you can go and this thing can be done away with. immediately. So call this lady and tell her to arrange the appointment with you. So he gives us a number of a lady called Anne. Then he tells us, you make sure you arrange by next week on Sunday. We will do this surgery on Sunday next week. So we go there. I call the lady, and the lady, we organize with the lady, and the lady says, okay, the doctor has actually told me about it and all that stuff. So the lady booked us, and I had to go check the hospital. So I went and did a research and found where the hospital was. So this hospital is called Ladnan Hospital. It is in Pangani area. One of the best, beautiful, best, wonderful hospital, and it has very good, wonderful doctors. And I think Dr. Suleiman is a consultant there. He's a consultant there. So I went there and I looked, and when I looked, the hospital was actually good. They even had a radiologist there. You know, they had these cancer things. It's well-equipped hospital, and it's one of the wonderful hospitals. And I was shocked, like, how come a hospital like that one can be so much equipped, but we have a national hospital which is not equipped, you know, which is not actually equipped. And I was like, how come? And the lady Anne received us very well, and we booked, and he told us, now let us just have a booking. So they booked us, and my son was booked in that hospital. It was called Ladnan Hospital. It's one of the best hospitals ever. And I will encourage some of you to just find out about it. It's one of the best hospitals, and they have a good. It's a good hospital for children. It's one of the best hospitals. So my son was booked in there, and you know, sometimes as a father you need to run up and down, try to look for things and all that stuff. And my wife was always there with my son, and they will always be there at night and check everything, how things are, and all that stuff. So a time came when now my son was supposed to go to the theater, and when the doctor came, and you know, I saw my son changing clothes. They were changed him from, you know, the normal clothes to those clothes for theater clothes. So when they changed him, and they decided now to take him there, and they had to put these things. There are things they put in the body as for, you know, to work with the nerves and all that stuff. And there I remember we actually prayed. We were very, very much prayerful. And the doctor told us, okay, now we are beginning, so you can just come and sit at the waiting base as you watch how the operation is being done, and we will just do these things. It's don't worry, it's a minor surgery. We will just do it and it will be okay. So my son went through there. They did a surgery for him, and they actually closed the hernia. That is when I ended up understanding what hernia is. It's actually an opening in around your skin, so that when the opening is too much, your intestines can actually, you know, be out, and that is why I was seeing a swelling in him, because there was that opening that had opened and the intestines were coming out, and that is how they were actually swelling and all that stuff. And I was like, this is so dangerous. At times you'll be very worried when he's in school and he's playing. You don't know what will happen, you know. And at times, when I remember when he was in school, every now and then we will call the teacher and ask the teacher, how is he doing? And thank God for the teacher. She was a mother, and she really understood. You know, these kindergarten kids, primary kindergarten teachers, they really understood what it was, and they knew he was actually delicate. Though he liked playing a lot, but he was very delicate. And so that is how the surgery was done by Dr. Suleiman from Ladnan Hospital, which was very, very good. Those doctors were very good. The nurses were very good, and they were really taking good care of my family there. So they would do good job. It was a very good job. And that is how my son was actually healed from hernia. So to any parent outside there, you may have your child sometimes has hernia and you may not know. And one thing is that something that you may not understand, that is happening to your child. Don't be just so quick in giving children medicine that you do not understand. Okay, make sure you take your son to hospital. Take them to the hospital. And when you're taking them to the hospital, don't take them to just these other Kijiji hospitals. There are some hospitals that are now coming up, which the operators are quacks. They may not actually be able to advise you properly. With them, they are only there for business. And they may end up actually tampering with your child. So make sure you find a very reputable hospital. Like now, if it were not of that Asian doctor, we will not actually have known about it. You know, we will not have known about it. You know? But I thank God for that Asian doctor who was very honest to us and told us this is what is happening with your son, and we were able to detect that thing earlier, and it was treated earlier. And right now, I'm happy to say that my son is okay. He's very much okay. He's in class 4. He will be going to class 5 next year. He's a very energetic young man, plays soccer a lot. And sometimes I think, like, if at all we had not detected that thing, it will have hindered him from actually playing soccer. And he's a very good soccer player, which is very, very okay. So I want just to speak to my fellow parents outside there. Please make sure you check on your children. Check on your children. Okay? Check on your children. Don't be so busy looking for money when you don't exactly know. Yeah? Under those clothes your children are putting on, you don't know what they are going through. Sometimes talk to them. They will tell you what they are going through and how they are feeling. And once you realize that, please take necessary measures. And by taking necessary measures, ensure you take them to the hospital so that they can be checked properly. Okay? They can be checked with a good doctor, professional, a medical practitioner, so that you can take care of things as earlier as possible. You know, it's as early as possible. And this one goes around. Just make sure you communicate with your children, guys. Communicate with your children. Okay? Communicate with your children. Make sure you understand what they are going through. Understand exactly what they are feeling. Understand, even if they've gone to school and they've received some bruises, check on those bruises and check them. Sometimes those bruises can be very infectious and they end up developing tetanus out of nothing. By the time you realize, it is too late. Yeah, it is too late. So this is one thing I need to encourage you parents. Please make sure you check on your children, communicate with your children, and ensure that you understand what they are going through. Otherwise, thank you very much, and I hope you'll have a blessed day. Thank you.